So we have learned about the square root of -1, which is I. We've looked at two applications. There's a common question with I. What happens when you raise I to a exponent? Okay, so if I have I squared, well, let's think about this. To square a number means to multiply it times itself. And we just said that I is the square root of -1. So what is the square root of -1 times the square root of -1? Well, that is going to be -1. This is essentially squaring a square root. And anytime I square a square root, it's going to cancel, and I'm going to be left with what's on the inside. What if I wanted to do I cubed? Well, there are multiple ways to think about it. The way I think about it is I cubed is I squared times I. That means there are 3 i's being multiplied, which can be written as I squared times I. That's the same thing as 3 i's being multiplied. Well, we just learned that I squared is -1. And we learned that I is the square root of -1. So this can be simplified as -I. So I didn't leave this as square root of -1. Square root of -1 is I, so I put it as I. It's -I. What happens with I to the 4th power? That means 4 i's being multiplied. It's going to be I squared times I squared. Well, what did we learn was I squared? -1 times -1. What is -1 times -1? +1. Okay? This is kind of interesting. I'm raising I to a higher power and it's simplifying. So let's keep going. Let's see what happens to I to the 5th power. So I got to think to myself, what would be a way I would want to rewrite this? So think about this regular I, this I squared, this I cubed, this I to the 4th. I think rewriting it in terms of this I to the 4th is going to be the easiest because I to the 4th is equal to 1. So I'm going to write it as I to the 4th times I. What is I to the 4th? 1. I, we're just going to keep as I. There's no way to simplify it, and my final answer is I. I to the 5th is I. Again, that's really interesting. It's simplifying. It's becoming a lot smaller. Let's look at I to the 6th. Again, it's going to be easiest to use this I to the 4th. How many more i's do I need to get I to the 6th? Well, 2. What is I to the 4th? 1. Let's go up here. What is I squared? -1. So what is 1 times -1? -1. Do you notice anything yet? Pause and think for a second. Do you notice anything? Well, I think I see a pattern because I had I, and then I squared was -1, just like I have I, and then I have I, and then I have -1. Let's keep going and let's see if this pattern continues. If the pattern continues, I would expect that I to the 7th is going to be -I. Let's see. I to the 7th can be broken up as I to the 4th times I cubed. I to the fourth is 1. What is I cubed? Negative I. 1 times negative I is negative I. Yes, indeed, the pattern continues. So the pattern here is always I, negative 1, negative I, 1. And then it repeats.